Hello and welcome back, guys. Today, we'll be diving into the sci-fi action franchise titled Men in Black 1, Men in Black 2, Men in Black 3 and Men in Black International. Without further ado, make sure to sit back and relax. The first movie kicks off with a man driving a van holding more than 10 passengers in the back. The group eventually stops the vehicle when they are blocked off by Border Patrol. The agents ask him to look in the back of his van, and as they do so and find multiple refugees, a car comes flying into the picture. Out steps a man named K as well as his partner D. The duo begins going through each person one by one until they stop at the last one who cannot understand Spanish. K allows the rest of them to leave and shuts up Border Patrol, who have no authority over him. The duo then decides to walk the last remaining man where no one can see. K then slices up the man's shirt to reveal an alien by the name of Mickey. When asked when exactly he was released from jail, Mickey mentions he is seeking political refuge, only for K and D to mention he broke 7 treaty laws. Just as the Border Patrol from earlier spot the alien, Mickey loses his temper, roaring and raging to kill the Border Patrol agent. K decides he has no other choice but to kill Mickey and literally make him nothing but glue. The agent and his friends are in shock, but K explains to them he has a neuralizer. While his team arrives, he mentions the eye will isolate the electrical impulses in the brain. His team then gets to cleaning all evidence around them, and K gets the Border Patrol agents to stare at his device while he clicks on some sunnies and activates it. Weirdly enough, all the men forget what just happened, and K informs them of a fake story about a gas leak. D, meanwhile, apologizes for his slowness in trying to stop Mickey and tells K he's going to miss the chase just as K presses the neuralizer one more time. Elsewhere, an NYPD agent named Edwards chases a man on foot and watches him do some pretty spectacular moves. Nonetheless, Edwards doesn't give up the chase and gets a ride to finally get a hold of his runner. However, the man seems to be in fear and pulls out a weird device, only to drop it and disintegrate on itself. The man simultaneously does yet another awesome move and pulls a chase, only to literally jump and climb a building. In shock, Edward shoots his way inside the building and sprints upstairs to eventually hold him at gunpoint, only for the man to say that Earth will soon end. Edwards then realizes that the person is not right in the head, but before saying any more, he decides to delete himself forever. Deeper into the night, a man whines and complains about his food when suddenly something falls from space and destroys his car. Out steps a man named Edgar, who, weirdly enough, isn't that surprised. His wife, Beatrice, also follows him out, only to be told to get back in. Edgar then hears a strange voice telling him to drop the weapon, but when he refuses, Edgar is yanked into the ground and appears to be somewhat devoured and have his body stolen by the creature. Inside the house, Edgar asks Beatrice for some sugar and water. After sculling the cup down, the alien goes to fix Edgar's face, which results in Beatrice dropping to the ground, in an interrogation room at the cop shop. Edwards cops a mad lecture from his superiors on the stupidity and absurdity of his story, not believing that the person had a weapon that disintegrated, scaled a building with his bare hands, and had multiple sets of eyes. The captain and fellow officer do not believe anything Edwards is saying. A woman named Laurel then approaches to say she believes him but has her memory erased by K. After deactivating the security camera, K explains they were gills, not eyelids, that Edwards saw. He tells Edwards to come with him for a ride, and on the way, he explains his team is part of a bureau that licenses and monitors alien activity on Earth. The duo then arrive at a pawn shop where the owner, Jeeps, greets them both. K decides to hold Jeeps at disintegration point, and when he doesn't confess about the guns, he loses a head. However, in a couple of seconds, it regrows, and this time he presses a button to show all the alien weaponry he has. Remembering the exact weapon that was almost used on him earlier, K calls Jeeps an absolute moron for giving that to an unlicensed alien and orders him to get off Earth immediately. Outside, Edwards tries to take a moment to understand what is going on until K makes him forget his memory. Edward awakens inside a restaurant, very confused about his whereabouts. K then hands him a card with an address and a time to be there before leaving Edward alone. The following day, a pest control worker arrives at Edgar's farm to deal with a cockroach infestation. However, the man is greeted by Edgar, who looks off his face and kills the man the same way he intended to kill the cockroaches. Edgar then attempts to put a weird object in the van, but it does not fit. Later into the day, Edwards arrives at the location given to him earlier and joins a meeting. Zed tells all men there they are the best of the best, whether it be the Army or Navy SEALs. However, only one will receive the job, and Edwards wants to know what the job is. A snob then answers the question after mentioning all his degrees, only for Edwards to run amok on him. No one really likes Edwards' playful manner, but K laughs from behind a hidden mirror just as the first test begins. As the rest of the nerds start doing their work, they all quickly come to the realization that they need something to write on. Edwards then decides to drag the table towards himself, making a deafening noise in the process. The second test then comes to light when all men are told to kill all threats. Edwards only fires one shot, though, and Zed asks why he only fired at the little girl. Edwards mentioned she seemed dangerous as his boys were just working out or were sick. However, little Tiffany was holding quantum physics books and was by herself in the middle of the ghetto. Zed seems quite disoriented by his response and goes directly to K to say he has a problem with authority. Zed then returns to the troops and says there will be an eye exam for the last test, clearly aiming to erase their minds. Edwards is stopped by K, however, who explains in the 1950s the government started an agency to contact aliens, and in 1961 aliens emerged and were intergalactic refugees who remain secret. Edwards asks for the exit, not believing K until they step in the kitchen to see a couple of aliens pouring the coffee. Once outside, K explains there are about 15,000 aliens at a time on Earth, and most of them are decent beings. He then mentions to get the job, Edwards must sever all human contact and no one will know he exists and has until sunrise to think about it. With that, Edwards decides to sit for hours on end just thinking about his decision. The next morning at sunrise, Edwards returns to the base to tell K that he's in. Within seconds, the duo arrive at the main base, which is also an intergalactic airport with various aliens and species around. K takes Edwards to some of their findings. As you'd expect from a guy like Edwards, he hits a floating ball, which goes around the airport and barely misses some heads until it destroys a science room before going back to K. Edwards continues his tour and is introduced to two aliens who watch over a map that gives the exact location of every alien on Earth. This includes Sylvester Stallone, which makes sense when you think about it. Zed then approaches and tells Edwards it's time to put on the last suit he'll ever wear. He is told he must only dress in specially sanctioned MIB services and will eat and live where they tell him. K simultaneously deletes all his records and removes any identity, literally making him as if he was never born. Above the system, he is officially named J and is officially a member of the Men in Black. In the meantime, Edgar takes the pest control van into the city and finds an old man closing shop. Back at headquarters, the agents receive information on an alien unauthorized to leave Earth. The duo head out to the car when Jay realizes it is not standard issue. Back to the old man named Gentle Rosenberg, he arrives at a cafe to meet an arch-alien who immediately tells His Majesty that a bug landed on the planet and he is in danger. Both, obviously aliens, remain seated, unknown to the fact that Edgar approaches them with their food. Rosenberg quickly realizes it though and says they'll never find his planet, which results in the duo being instantly killed and having an item stolen while the cat screams at him. In the meantime, Jay and K find the alien attempting to flee the country. He tells K that the planet isn't safe anymore due to the new arrivals and refuses to say anymore. Afterwards, Jay helps the pregnant women in the car to give birth to an alien baby. K later tells Jay that something is up and he wants to know what. As the duo go for a break though, K spots a newspaper mentioning Beatrice's concern of an alien taking over her husband's body. Both agents immediately arrive at the farmhouse and are greeted by Beatrice. She immediately tells them the story and how her husband was murdered and taken over. Once Beatrice mentions the constant water and sugar Edgar keeps asking for, K has heard enough and erases her memory. Outside, he confirms his theory that a bug has landed on Earth and is a creature of pure carnage. At the morgue, Rosenberg's corpse is taken to Laurel with the cat refusing to leave his side. After beginning the autopsy, Laurel is confused beyond belief and starts recording it for her entry until Jay and K arrive. They quickly have a look at the Archon's body, which Laurel admits to not having seen anything like it. Jay heads off with Laurel to have a look at Rosenberg, but funnily enough, Laurel can't help but mention that she believes the body is not a corpse but a transportation device. After noticing something weird on his ear, the doctor touches it only for his head to begin opening up, which reveals a little alien barely alive. He tells the duo they need to prevent war in the galaxy is on Orion's belt before passing away. Immediately telling K what just happened, they erase the doctor's memory and head off. Their special cleanup teams arrive and are given instructions to clear the scene. The bug, meanwhile, attempts to open the device he stole, and when he eventually does, diamonds fall out, only for the bug to scream, "Where is it?" Back at headquarters, the next morning, Zed pulls up the 3 stars on Orion's belt, saying there is no galaxy and Jay heard wrong. K, in the meantime, checks up on a woman and just smiles, but is caught by Jay as he simultaneously deletes the video. Zed quickly calls the duo and mentions that multiple aliens are leaving Earth and they know something which he has yet to figure out. Concurrently, an arch-alien battlecruiser appears, clearly due to one of their royalty dying. Before heading to Rosenberg's shop, Jay is handed a tiny weapon, which he obviously complains about. At Rosenberg's shop, the bug breaks in and goes through the place. It stops when it sees the cat's necklace, and funnily enough, the pest control van is being towed away, to which the bug attempts to stop the driver but is instead put on show. the duo soon arrive at the store and notice nothing has been stolen. Jay hears a gunshot outside, sees the bug, and decides to take a shot but misses. He quickly runs outside and shoots a second time, but it just detaches the van from the tow truck. Once the bug escapes, K tells Jay they do not use their weapons in public, but nonetheless, they have the bug's spaceship thanks to Jay's shooting. At headquarters, though, the 𝐓𝐴𝐲 blame the MIB for their majesty's death and demand to deliver the galaxy. The bug, in the meantime, rummages through the streets to learn about the morgue and its whereabouts. Jay and K then make their way to a talking dog named Frank, whom K grabs after shaking him for information. People around start noticing, but Frank tells K that Rosenberg was the guardian of the whole galaxy, which is the best source for subatomic energy in the universe, and if the bugs get it, the 𝐓𝐴𝐲ians are dead. Some more shaking forces Frank to confess that the galaxy is here and that it is really tiny, like the size of a marble. Once the dog leaves, Jay looks at a cat on the street and realizes what Orion's belt is. At the morgue, the cat strolls around and Laurel notices the galaxy on the cat. Staring into it, she sees hundreds of planets and discovers aliens for the third time in her life. Just then, the bug walks into the morgue to be met by a man. After asking for the cat, the man keeps killing bugs around him, and this causes Edgar to completely lose control. Arriving on the scene, Jay tells K to give him 2 minutes to retrieve the cat, and K agrees, unaware that Laurel is being tossed around inside by the bug. However, when Jay walks in, Laurel is standing alone and tries hinting to him that someone is underneath the sheet. Jay doesn't get it, and it's not long before K enters to spot evidence the bug is inside. The bug, however, reveals itself when the cat emerges and holds Laurel by the neck. As both Jay and K aim their weapons at him, the bug slowly walks backwards and, with the galaxy and Laurel, jumps out the window and onto the street. After hijacking a cab, he forces Laurel to drive him to a location, at which he suddenly swallows Orion's belt. Jay gets right to the chase and looks for the cab until K appears and tells him to get in. Once at command base, K orders a barrier around Manhattan, and no alien is allowed to leave. More problems arise when the arch-alien battleship fires a warning on Earth and gives them 1 hour to deliver the galaxy or be destroyed. Jay, funnily enough, has a good hunch where the bug is planning to leave the planet, and he is spot on as we see the bug arriving at the spaceship. The duo head to the location and take a tunnel. After pressing a button, the car amazingly transforms itself, just like Transformers, and speeds upside down through the tunnel, dodging things in the way. They quickly get out just as the bug throws Laurel in a tree and makes his way inside the ship. Jay finally gets an upgraded weapon and there are only 8 minutes left till Earth's destruction. The bug then turns the ship on before flying away. Passing a baseball game, everyone trips out and, with no alternative, the duo shoot the ship, which eventually causes it to crash land directly in front of them. Out steps the filthy creature, who is told to surrender himself. However, the creature says the humans have already lost. Once he places his hand on his head, his true form comes out to reveal its true self. It immediately swallows the duo's guns, and the filthy creature walks off, only for K to approach it and taunt it enough for it to eat him. Jay then attempts to stall the bug long enough for K to do his job, but he gets slapped and thrown around. The bug eventually gets annoyed and tosses him away, just as Laurel safely falls from the tree. As the creature climbs for the second ship and ignores Jay, Jay begins squishing bugs with his sarcastic-looking face. After killing the bug's cousins and aunties, it angrily approaches him with the intention to kill, but K isn't out of the equation just yet and activates his gun to blow the creature apart, with its goo spilling all over the place. They find the galaxy and immediately inform the 𝐓𝐴𝐲ians. Unbeknownst to the already celebrating duo, the bug emerges again, only to be blown to pieces by Laurel, who tells them they have an interesting job. Back at home base, K allows Jay's request not to wipe Laurel's memory. However, he wants Jay to erase his and finally wants to retire. He explains that from the first moment he saw him, he knew that this young recruit would be fit for the job and wanted to train a replacement, not a partner. After explaining how to use the neuralizer, Jay dons his sunnies and uses the device to make K think he's been in a 35-year coma, but it's good to see he was reunited with the woman he wanted from that long ago. Funnily enough, it seems Laurel has also accepted the role of being an MIB agent, and they ride off just as we zoom out so far to the point where creatures play marbles with our entire universe. If you have enjoyed the recap, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, we'll see you in the next one. 5 years later, a spaceship, obliterating world after world after world, finally arrives at Earth in July 2002. After landing and showing us its grandiosity, it flips itself over, and out comes a tiny replica of the ship, which a dog approaches. Serena, a shape-shifting Kylo, an alien, scares the animal away. It goes to a nearby book and finds a human it would like to copy. It then disgustingly begins its transformation and decides that, to be an alien arriving on Earth, you must follow in the footsteps of Terminator and pretty much arrive naked. Elsewhere, Jay is with Agent T when they interrogate a plant for being outside its travel zone. T triggers it a little too much, and so a massive worm, hundreds of meters high, tosses T away and also decides to smack J as well. J gets back up and intentionally rides the worm to stick a needle into it. As he goes to put the second one in, the worm rides past a group of people who seem quite unfazed. After being thrown into the train in front of him, J needs a plan as the worm rips half the carriage apart. Directing the people to go ahead, the worm opens its mouth and fits about 6 carriages in there before pulling out. J then approaches the worm and calls him Jeff before aiming his gun, finally making the worm surrender. After wiping out the memory of the passengers, he orders a cleanup crew and revokes Jeff's movement privileges, wanting him escorted back to Chambers Street Station. Deciding to take a well-deserved break, T joins his partner, who gets quite emotional being all alone in this universe. In another part of town, we are introduced to Scrad and Charlie. Selena pays them a visit and demands the location of the light. Charlie asks for $50 million for it, but Selena has other methods in mind. Getting some pizza, the two agents have a heart-to-heart, which leads T to start crying. Realizing the last 5 months haven't really worked out with him, J decides to erase T's memory before telling him to get married and have some kids. Elsewhere, in a pizza shop, Laura has given the Employee of the Month status from her boss, Ben, who tells her to get back to work. When returning, she sees Serena threatening her boss, to which they hear a noise. After inspecting and not finding anyone there, Serena tells Ben she knows he is a Zarthan and wants the light of Zartha. Ben then uses a scary-ass voice to tell his intruder that the light will be gone tomorrow, and she can do nothing about it. After slicing him in half, they leave the store, leaving Laura in shock. At MIB headquarters, Jay returns and starts barking orders to his troops. Clearly known for erasing people's minds at will, the agents tread carefully around him. Soon enough, Zed enlightens Jay to the details of the killing at the pizza shop. Jay then informed Zed that he was sacked and that Laurel wanted to get back to her job. At the Morgan, Frank funnily enough decides to be Jay's partner for the time being. Once the duo arrive, they discover phosphorus on the floor and mention there was a witness. Jay quickly speaks to Laura himself and offers to buy her some food at a diner. Laura cannot comprehend the scene she just saw. Jay tells her everything, from the MIB to aliens on Earth, and she takes it quite well. However, Jay must do what he must and goes to erase her memory, only for Laura to mention he looks quite lonely. This hits him hard enough to leave her memory for the time being. Both he and Frank then head towards the spaceship landing site from earlier. Zed calls in and mentions that the light of Zartha is not on Earth and that 25 years ago, the Zarthans came to Earth to hide the light from Serena. The agent that carried out that order was none other than K. The following day, Jay immediately heads to a massive post office and gets out of the car. Once there, he gets quite emotional upon seeing his former partner and tells him he was part of the Men in Black and was a former agent. Kevin, as people have been calling him, shrugs off the conversation until Jay says he was never in a coma. Funnily enough, though, Jay gets the opportunity to showcase some evidence as an alien is also undercover at the post office. After some weird communication, everyone at the office reveals themselves to be aliens, and K trips out. Jay then decides to say that his wife left him because he knows more about the stars than Earth, and that results in a slap. However, K does still agree to go for a ride with Jay, as he had once done the same thing many years ago. At headquarters, the now reunited duo come out of the elevators, only for everyone to recognize Agent K. He is a decorated hero from the past and the most feared human on the planet. Simultaneously, Michael Jackson completes a mission for Zed and asks for a position in the agency but is turned down. As aliens cannot be agents, K then reunites with Zed, who gets him prepped for the neuralizer. After Jay gets his revenge for only handing him a small gun, as he did many years ago, he gets him in a suit and introduces the neuralizer. Back in the lobby, Selena decides to attack and takes out an agent before releasing her slimy tentacles all around the place. A lockdown ensues, and after taking inspiration from a toilet, headquarters decide to flush both Jay and K out of the agency and onto the street. Serena, in the meantime, finishes locking up all remaining agents for Frank to not yet be caught. The duo then use surveillance cameras and see absolute silence at the base. They then look up an old acquaintance who might have a neuralizer he stole some years ago. Eventually, the duo arrive at Jeb's and ask for the neuralizer. Adamant he doesn't have such a device at first, a weapon to his head quickly changes his mind. Back at headquarters, all alien prisoners have been released and are told the first person to find K and J gets to keep Earth. Serena then personally calls a creepy-ass man by his name, Jara, back with Jeb. He gets everything ready and turns on the neuralizer. After his B-grade machine starts moving and working, the entire city's power turns off on them. Once it comes back, the machine shakes and spins before flinging K away. The two go and check up on him, only for Jeb to lose his head. K seems quite upset and disappointed before walking away on his own. Out of nowhere, two prisoners released from earlier fire their way into the basement. Problematically, Jay is quickly surrounded by more goons and disarmed. Once they revert to torture him for information, K is outside and sees the same bikers and people he has seen before, and all his memories start coming back to him. Realizing that his partner is in trouble, K returns downstairs and shoots the prisoners before poking their eyes, flinging them away, and kicking the last one in the face. With his memory back, the duo head upstairs where Jay is forced to give up the keys to the car. Zed, in the meantime, refuses to talk until Selena mentions that the light of Zartha will self-destruct by midnight and completely destroy Earth. Zed then calls Michael Jackson and decides to attack Selena. While he is distracted, he does not stand a chance, and Serena notices Frank still inside headquarters. They, on the other hand, head down to pay Laura a visit. However, there seems to be quite a bit of tension between the two agents as K reveals a clue about the light of Zartha and the store owner. After grabbing the keys, as the clue, a photo is pointing to, Jay refuses to let K erase Laura's mind, at least for the time being. Instead, Laura is sent to hang out with some trusted aliens until the entire situation is rectified. In the hallway outside, K says he erased his own memory about the light of Zartha and does not remember it but has left himself some clues. After unlocking his own locker, the duo discovers hundreds of small aliens inside it. K takes his watch back, and the elder of the village reminds him of a card he once gave them. After taking the card and closing the locker, the two agents go to the shop detailed on the card called Taper. Inside the video rental shop, K inserts the card to reveal he placed a reservation on a video named The Light of Zartha. At headquarters, Jara and Selena make a deal that in return for Jay, Jara will build Serena a ship that travels 300 times the speed of light. At a tapeworm manager's house a while later, the man plays a DVD to inform us of a war between the Zarthans and the Ks'ans for over 50 years. However, a secret weapon that could tilt the war to one side was discovered. K then quickly gets back his memory of the situation where he was forced to refuse taking the light as Earth planned to remain neutral. However, the princess was killed, and the light was handed to K. As per procedure, the civilian memories are erased, and Jay gives Laura a call to discover that she has the light on her wrist. Jay then informs Frank to deactivate the lockdown as he found the light. Not realizing that Serena is the one on the other line, sometime later, the duo arrive to find the place trashed and Laura missing. As the duo have to save the world once again, they will need some weapons. They decide to make their way to K's old house to reveal a secret room full of guns. The duo load themselves with anything that'll pack a punch and even load the aliens to help them as well. After using the neuralizer once again, Jara informs Selena that her ship is ready, and she wants to send it to K immediately. Jay and K simultaneously arrive with the help of the four aliens, and Jay decides to pop a hole into headquarters, which backfires and sucks them in. After getting up and going to the elevator, a friendly sentry turret turns evil and shoots hundreds of rounds at the elevator, leading Serena to think the duo are dead. However, the duo are alive, and K tells Jay to not come back for him no matter what. As the four bugs stay on the roof scared for their lives, Jay manages to run into the base while K instructs the bugs to deactivate the power so the ship is not able to take off. As the sentry turret approaches, K drops a bomb and escapes only to find Selena there taking a hold of him. At the ship, Jay sees that Jara has escaped and, wanting his revenge, he reveals another 3 weird-ass looking clones that attack Jay. Knowing that time is short and something must happen soon, Laura tells Jay to run away, but he stands his ground and starts playing some baseball. After riding one of Jara's clones, a mad punch takes out one more of them, and the final 2 are tricked into colliding with each other with 10 seconds till launch. Jay calmly deactivates liftoff. Meanwhile, K cannot stand Selena and tells her, "I'll give you one last chance to surrender, you slimy Kylothian invertebrate." Jayan appears from behind and immediately disintegrates Selena while the bugs deactivate the power. Everyone quickly gets into the car, and Serena begins shapeshifting again. K then tells the other 2 that the bracelet is not the light but a departure point. When suddenly Selena attacks again, K realizes their situation and presses a button, which transforms the car and makes it take off flying after going through a detour around the Statue of Liberty. Jay tells K to get out of his seat. The 2 switch places with each other as Selena approaches them until Jay does some mad moves heading into the subway station. Both ships fly at outstanding speeds until Jay suddenly stops his ship long enough for Selena to go right into Jeff's mouth and be eaten. The team then arrives at the departure point only for K to say that Laura is the light of Zartha. Confused, she argues and mentions that it is impossible until a beam of light comes directly from space and stops to reveal a ship that Laura is to leave in. Jay is quite disappointed, and him being alone seems to be something he must continue getting used to. After both agents get emotional, Jeff comes to the top of the tower and Selena rips him apart from the inside out. Jay saves Laura's life as Selena attempts to toss him around, urging Laura to get onto the ship. Kay says she was just as beautiful as her mother, and with that, Laura starts flying away. K kills Selena again, but again she emerges and shoots towards Laura, only for the duo to shoot their big guns and cause an absolutely awesome display of fireworks, finally killing Serena once and for all with a mission well done. The Statue of Liberty erases all the minds of New York City, and back at headquarters, the original trio reunite. K then heads to an exit door and kicks it down to reveal that Earth is inside a locker as the little aliens were beforehand. The third movie kicks off with a woman approaching a cell to visit an inmate, bringing in a cake. It is scanned and given the all clear. The guards then escort the woman to a massive vault-looking cell where we're introduced to a deadly prisoner named Boris the Animal. The guards there cannot stand it. He has a visitor in so go to ruin the cake, only for a creature to grab the guard's hand and kill him as well as his partner. It then breaks all of Boris's shackles before crawling into his hand. Multiple screws then attempt to stop the prison break but are shot at and killed by Boris. The entire facility immediately goes into lockdown when all armored guards get ready for a fight. Once Boris makes his way in, all guards have their weapons trained on him until he blasts a massive hole in the roof, sucking out all the guards and also deciding to let his woman be killed in the process. Once outside the Lunar Max Correctional Center, Boris says he wants to rewrite history on Earth. Jay uses the neuralizer on the civilians that just saw a spaceship landing. K wants to know who is driving the spaceship, and as the duo grab a takeaway kebab, Jay stresses out on the speech K will be giving tonight on Zed's passing after working together over 40 years. Once the time is right, K jumps on the stand to say that he worked with Zed for 40 years and the man never invited him to his house or shared any personal details. In the end, Jay is appalled at the pathetic speech, and Agent O takes to the stand to give an even more useless speech. As the night continues, Jay just stares at K and makes him promise to say something decent if he passes away first. He also wants to know how K becomes so docile and what caused him to be so not human, but gets another politician response from him. At a store, Boris approaches a man named Jeffrey and tells him his father mentioned him in prison and that he wants a device to go back in time and kill the man that took his arm. Later on, the duo head to a Chinese restaurant to meet up with Wu. They head to the back and discover that Wu has been selling illegal foods to humans. K releases some anger out on the man before going to have a sit-down. Quickly enough, he notices multiple aliens around him and that something is very wrong. When O tells him that Boris the Animal was the man on the ship from earlier, he immediately tells Jay to get ready. Within seconds, the duo is forced to flip a table and incinerate an alien thug before K joins in and kills a few more. While K goes to the kitchen and gets attacked, Jay is surrounded by multiple aliens and is forced to fight back. K, meanwhile, kills his attacker and sees that Wu has been killed by Boris. As Jay gets attacked from the illegal fish from earlier, he uses the gills to kill the fish from the inside out. On the roof, K confronts Boris, who tells him he's thought about how K blew off his arm every single day for 40 years. K laughs at how he is the last remaining Bogladite, which triggers an attack, only for Jay to save him. The duo are then shot off the roof and barely make it to the ground alive while Boris makes it known that K is already dead. Sometime later, cleanup teams arrive at the scene, and K tells his partner he should have killed Boris and not imprisoned him all those years ago. But it doesn't matter since Jay is off the case, as this is a personal matter. Jay doesn't handle that too well but nonetheless is suspended for 2 weeks at headquarters. Jay discovers Boris the Animal is a Bogladite assassin who annihilates worlds for a living and was the only suspect in a series of alien murders committed on Earth. Agent K was the man who arrested Boris in Florida and was the creator of the ArcNet defense system, which led to the death of all remaining Bogladites. However, the access is soon restricted, and Agent O approaches Jay to tell him she's known K for some time and that some things must remain hidden. At home, Jay kicks back on some PlayStation when his phone rings. Surprisingly, K is on the line and tells him regret is the strongest weapon he knows and wants to open up to Jay but doesn't find the courage to do so. After grabbing one of the best weapons he has, K aims it at his door until he disappears. Just as Jay feels very sick, weird things start happening, and Jay goes to K's house to find a woman and multiple children there instead. At headquarters, Jay is confronted by an agent he has never seen before who tells him thanks for yesterday. Confused, he asks around to discover that was Agent DAA and that no one has ever heard of Agent K before. Agent O approaches him and asks how he knows of Agent K, only to show him that he has been dead for over 40 years. Jay is confused beyond compare and also discovers that Boris the Animal had killed him. He makes O believe that K was with him last night by providing details only specific to him. When Jay gets handed the chocolate milk he asked for earlier, Agent O panics and says he's been bitten by a creature, which she disproves by slapping him. She then tells him he is involved in a break in the timeline, and love for chocolate milk is a symptom. She continues by saying only one man has invented time travel before, and out of nowhere the system sounds off and warns them of an impending Bogladite attack as there is no ArcNet defense system. Agent O tells Jay he needs to find the son of the man who created the time machine and go back in time to save K from being killed months at Jeffrey's store. Jay quickly gets the rundown on when and where Boris was sent. Jeffrey agrees to help since the planet is about to be destroyed. In Jay, he lets him know he wants to kill Boris a couple of days before K was killed. Jay is then presented the time machine and the two go really high up in the sky. Jeffrey gives him a rundown and mentions that he and K cannot interact with each other. Once told he needs to jump off the building for the device to work, Jay freaks out and is also told if he loses the device he will be stuck in 1969. As the aliens start destroying the Earth, Jay is forced to trigger the device and jump off the building. While falling down, an alien hits the device out of his hand, fortunately managing to grab it again. He continues his fall and presses the button for a green light to show him some dinosaurs, then take him high above New York as it gets constructed. Seeing everything in lifetime, he stops millimeters away from the ground and is yanked back to the roof where everything finally stops. Not believing what just happened, he continues to the elevator where he approaches a man who was fearful for his life, remembering 1969 probably wasn't the best time for people like him in America. He continues his mission and decides to outright steal a rich man's car, heading to the fair where the first alien was killed. Boris rides a weird-looking bike looking for his prey. As you'd expect from a man like Jay, he is pulled over for having such a nice car, and the copper there asks him what he does for work. Jay puts it on both of them for being straight racist but does confess to stealing the car from the cop's wife. Being detained, the morons decide to press the neuralizer, and Jay puts it on them because you see, a black man driving in a nice car does not mean it's stolen. At the fair, Boris questions Roman about the Archon and is told the humans will get the ArcNet. This results in Roman's death, which Jay hears and rushes to the murder scene. Spotting Boris, he aims his gun at him, only for K to stop him and knock him out. Once Jay awakens, he is at headquarters being stared down by K, who questions how he knows his name. Jay acts dumb and tries making a complete lie to not destroy the timeline, however, he is easily caught out, and funnily enough, Agent O comes into the picture, which Jay recognizes. Once she leaves, K says he can leave after an eye exam but was also lying. He goes to place Jay inside a massive neuralizer as the machine spins him around. Jay quickly speaks and tries convincing K to stop the machine. He gets there by saying to kill Boris tomorrow and do not spare him. As the machine shuts down, K wants some real answers, and Jay informs him that he is from the future and quickly gives the rundown on the situation. K agrees to help him kill Boris by tomorrow. Once the duo enter the car, K asks Jay what to do next, not really sure what to do. Jay remembers something about a factory, and K takes off, remembering a clue Roman left before dying. They arrive at a bowling alley, only for Jay to be handcuffed to the car while K goes inside. He tells two aliens he wants to see their boss, but a standoff quickly ensues. Jay stops it though, and K quickly rips off the other alien's head for Jay to use it as a bowling ball. Once the head comes back, they annoy the alien long enough for him to reveal where the boss is. Jay makes sure to land himself a spare before heading to the back. However, they discover the boss dead, obviously killed by Boris. Smartly enough, though, the DU will find another clue to look for the next alien target at a place called the factory. Once there, Jay is handed a normal pistol rather than a Techet-out gun. The two then make their way to an alien party where Mr. Warhol is interrupted and forcefully moved into private quarters, where he reveals himself to be Agent W. Jay is quickly told to go away as he is causing more harm than help. Once alone, Agent W tells K that if a killer were trying to kill a Glorian, he is instead most likely after the Arcanon. Seems they are not extinct, and one washed ashore last week. His name is Griffin, and Jay witnesses firsthand how he is able to tell the future. W tells K that Griffin is a fifth-dimensional being and can live and visualize an infinite set of time-space probabilities simultaneously. Griffin then tells Jay that this outcome, which includes both the death of Roman and the killing at the bowling alley, has such a small chance of success. He then informs both agents of his planet's destruction and that the Bogladites can be stopped on Earth and starved before reaching the next planet, saying he has a gift for them for the next time they see him. He suddenly begins to stress out as he counts the seconds until Boris comes, which exactly turns out to be right. Once Boris has finished his kill and off in his motorcycle, Jay attempts to shoot him but is instead humiliated. K comes to his help, but Jay does not want it and tells him off as they keep failing one job after another. That night, the two relieve their stress by going to get some pie, believing it'll let them think better. Jay mentions how Griffin was talking about the game and thinks he knows where he is. With that, the two head to the nearest baseball park and make sure to load themselves before walking in. Quickly spotting the Archon, he tells them to come watch the game with him, opening up a portal. They get to see how Griffin lives his life, able to see multiple futures that could arise from millions of different things that could happen in the past. He then gives the duo his gift, the ArcNet. Upset that his planet was destroyed by the Boglodites, he wants to help Earth any way possible. After calling himself a fool, Boris comes flying around the corner to snatch up Griffin and destroy the 𝐓𝐸-car. K then activates a device to reveal two very peculiar vehicles. The duo get on and chase Boris, while Boris attempts to get the ArcNet off Griffin. On the road, the duo are attacked, but they honestly drive exceptionally well. Boris then uses his slimy creature to take Griffin's box from his neck as K simultaneously mentions using a tactic to save the Archon. J distracts Boris as K grabs Griffin and shoots the motorcycle, which causes it to fall and explode onto a wall. Problematically though, J notices the bike emitting weird flames, but Boris is nowhere to be seen. On a skyrise in the city, the Boris from the future finally arrives and immediately heads to his younger self who has been swindled, explaining everything that will happen in the future. Both Boglodites almost attack each other. Instead, the older Boris says all they need to do is kill Agent K. Griffin, in the meantime, reveals where he had hidden the ArcNet and puts it in a small device for the humans to use. However, it needs to be outside the atmosphere, which is when it'll show its true size. Coincidentally, it seems that the launch to the moon is on the same day, which will give them the opportunity to put the ArcNet in space. J, however, tells K he wants to finish the mission on his own and doesn't want him in Florida. K refuses to listen until he is told he is killed there by Boris. K gives J a couple punches to his head for lying to him, and once he stops, Griffin tells J that K must be the one to deploy and save Earth. J wants to know if there is a way to save his life, and Griffin informs him that where there is death, there is death. K informs his future partner that they'll have each other's backs and will be alright. The trio quickly head back to base and use an experimental device to get them to Florida in time for the rocket launch. Once strapped in, the two machines activate and take off at enormous speeds, quickly arriving at the takeoff site. The duo gets onto a road and are approached by army personnel. Griffin tells them the only outcome that will deploy the ArcNet is by telling the truth. Funnily enough, J tells the soldiers everything from MIB to their mission. Quickly arresting the trio, the colonel is called down. Within minutes, he arrives and is handed all equipment found on the intruders. The colonel asks for answers, and J gets to the truth once again, only to not be listened to. Griffin then touches the colonel and allows him to see many multiple futures at once. Once completely understanding the situation, he dismisses the corporal, and his men escort the team to their next phase. Griffin tells J he isn't going and he's no longer needed. He warns him though, that once Boris loses his arm to go back to the future. As America and the entire world watch the rocket about to take off, the duo are taken to an elevator leading to the top of the rocket. On their way up, both J and K have a heart-to-heart with each other, with K telling his partner he is a good man. Out of nowhere, future Boris rips J out of the elevator and destroys his gun after chucking him off the edge, and believing this, K takes him. K reaches the rooftop and the top of the rocket, attempting to place the ArcNet. Younger Boris pushes him away, causing the device to be dropped. With 2 minutes until takeoff, future Boris goes to shoot at K until the building holding the rocket shifts and locks K's leg in place. J comes to his rescue though, and is once again shoved away as Boris goes to kill K. J calls him a one-armed animal, and this results in the same thing as before. However, J decides enough is enough and runs at Boris, who shoots him multiple times until they fall off the edge. J triggers the time machine, which stops the 𝐓𝐸-𝐸 from the ground and returns J to 1 minute earlier. This time he has the knowledge of how the shots are coming his way, and he dodges them and gives Boris an uppercut over the edge and to his death. K, meanwhile, shoots younger Boris's arm off and grabs the ArcNet. After placing the device, K jumps to a nearby ledge and goes sprinting as the rocket is about to take off. As future Boris is incinerated, the rocket shoots to the sky, and J has completed his mission with the ArcNet now protecting the world. The colonel is offered a spot inside MIB and says he wishes he could, when suddenly younger Boris appears and kills the colonel. Before K decides to kill him for good this time, as J watches, he understands what Griffin was saying when he said where there is death, there will always be death. Out of nowhere, a young kid comes from the car behind him, and it turns out to be the colonel's son. J cries, realizing he is that younger boy and that his father was killed to protect K. So, K promises the young kid he will look after him, and once he figures this won't work out, he neuralizes the boy and tells him his dad was a hero. J cries while watching this, eventually, returns back home. Immediately heading to the diner, he discovers K alive and well. Once he finds out everything is back in order, J reveals the watch his dad had given to him. He then thanks K, who gets emotional himself. Once the duo leave, Griffin is happy as he looks up at space for a satellite to come in the way of a meteor. The end. The movie kicks off in Paris, 2016, where both Agent H and Agent T arrive at the Eiffel Tower. Once inside, their weapons are at the ready until they see a man attempting to propose. H tells the couple that there was a breach in Portal 2, and some vile creatures are soon to come. After using the neuralizer on them, the portal erupts and kicks H to the elevator. After getting back up, they go for round 2 and approach a massive door. Opening the door, the two fire at will until we are taken back to Brooklyn 20 years earlier. Here, we are introduced to Molly. While her parents downstairs hear a noise, the father goes to check it out, only for him to come running back, saying he saw a creature. The MIB quickly arrive and explain they saw a very dangerous unlicensed alien. However, it seems to have made its way to Molly's room and freaks her out. The creature is just as scared, though. Molly then hears the neuralizer go off and decides she needs to hide the creature. After telling the creature her name, he repeats it back to her before taking off. Many years later, at the FBI branch in New York, Molly has an extraordinary resume but missed the division she wants to work in. She mentions her division isn't on the form, but the bosses have no clue what she's talking about. She ends up working a telecommunication job until one of her outer space readings detects an anomalous object. Immediately leaving and going to her apartment, she seems to have hacked a NASA employee's account to determine exactly where the ship's trajectory is heading and makes a move. Once there, she looks around to find absolutely nothing until birds start bugging out in real time. Molly then places her hand through the fence and realizes it's all fake. She suddenly sees a spaceship and an alien being detained. Rushing away and swapping into a suit to follow the men in black, she eventually arrives at headquarters. Making some fake alien conversation to the new guard, he calls in a code black. Within seconds, the base goes into lockdown and Molly is taken into interrogation. Agent O tells the agents to neuralize her and stops once Molly says that she knows what it is, as she has seen it before. She confesses that she's been searching for them for 20 years, and Agent O goes inside the room to hear the intruder asking to be recruited. After making a story about discovering the secrets of the universe, Agent O puts Molly through some training and decides to accept her into MIB. After formally being named Agent M, the scene cuts to Agent H acting as if he is interested in moving some sort of liquid. However, the alien there attacks Agent H, which seems like an easy job until he kills each one of them. He then trains his gun at the boss and wants his supplier's network and everything until he is bitten by a lethal creature. The aliens flash the antidote to him, but the male alien is then bitten as well. H pleads with the woman that if she saves him, she'll get anything she wants. Agent M then boards a train with a clear dissociation with reality. With both aliens and MIB agents on board, the spacecraft goes flying around the world and arrives in London. Still tripping out at the number of aliens in her presence, she continues to the terminal and realizes that Elon Musk is not from Earth before Agent T makes his presence known. After causing a scene just as Agent J and K had done, she receives a very special gift from T. At Mirage, a man cleans the floor of a hall when the lights completely go out. Going to check the fuse, some very weird aliens appear from behind him. They eventually get close enough to drain the man's body and dump it. Once they shapeshift into lookalikes, they make their way to a shop and tell the man they need to see the Queen. Escorted to the back, they ask for someone to die and present a photo, only for the Queen to reject them as they have a treaty with the 𝐍𝐵𝐵ian. Until they eventually agree from fear of losing their lives. Elsewhere, Agent H arrives at headquarters in London, where Molly sees the history of aliens and the Great Mig. Agent H then walks in, to which everyone just stares at him. He is known as the best agent, and while T speaks about the incident from the night before, H enters and gets told off for being too arrogant. T then tells the team a member of the 𝐍𝐵𝐵ian royal family has a layover on Earth and has asked for H to be his chaperone. Later on, M decides to pay H a visit and wake him up. She offers her assistance with the 𝐍𝐵𝐵ian tonight but is told that he works alone. After telling him that she knows how to tell if a 𝐍𝐵𝐵ian is lying, he agrees to let her come. That night, H tells M to act casual and they do arrive at a club. They link up with Vungus, the man they will be chauffeuring. The twins simultaneously make their way onto the scene, and while they take over the dance floor, one of them fires something that hits Vungus. Not feeling too well, he is escorted out and told to sleep it off. As the car drives away, though, it explodes and crashes. The two agents see the twins and force them to get down. However, one of them starts bending space and they abolish the entire street. Vungus is still alive, though, and a firefight takes place. After blasting the two aliens, they turn into matter then back to themselves. Thanos would struggle against these boys, but they do attempt their best. As M goes to grab Vungus, he grabs her to see if she can be trusted as he does not believe in H anymore. He then decides to give her something and says something is wrong with the men in black before dying. As H launches a rocket, NYPD arrive on the scene only for the twins to disappear. When Agent C comes on site, he tells H and M off for how pathetic of a job they have done. M says that Vungus did not say a word when he died, and this adds fuel to the fire. At headquarters, T learns the killers are a species called Diadnam and are from the Hive territory, something H stopped years ago and saved the world from. The Hive, as M explains, take over their enemies from within. As C goes to neuralize the duo, T stops him. M explains that only a handful of people knew Vungus was on Earth and that NYPD have a mole. C is then told to track the killers while M will make a weapon to neutralize the two demons. H, in the meantime, is told he is off the case and not the same person that defeated the Hive before. In weapons development, H pretty much lies and says he is running point on the operation and wants M beside him. As they head off, H realizes he didn't have his good old sniff for the day and switches it up. Knowing that the item is Z-pose, it will either kill you or keep you dancing for 17 hours straight. The two immediately train it to Mars and tell Nar no alien tech on the street is allowed. Bam also introduces himself and tells H they thought he was dead. When he and 𝐉𝐨𝐲 split up, M discovers 𝐉𝐨𝐲 runs the biggest criminal syndicate and the two eventually head off. At base, Agent C finds footage of M being handed something by Vungus. He tells his agent not to say a word and that he will alert Agent T. The twins then make their way towards the duo, and Bassam says to call 𝐉𝐨𝐲. The duo then spot the alien in the antique store dead and go in the back to find everyone slaughtered. One alien, they decide to name Pony, remains and tells them he has no use left in life. H manages to convince the little man that M is a queen and it pledges his loyalty to her. Instead of leaving him to die, she decides to put him in her pocket. Funnily enough, it seems that H has found the item that was given to her earlier and told not to trust anyone else with it. Suddenly, NYPD tactical agents all pop out of nowhere. C explains to T that H has an item that was stolen from the 𝐍𝐵𝐵ian research team and brought to Earth, that H is acting weird, and that T let them go for some reason. The operation continues nonetheless, and the two immediately get a call from T informing them the operation isn't his and that there is a mole inside the agency. After the duo decide to split up, H distracts all the agents while the twins spot M with the device. M notices the power dying around her, and H goes to his friend's bike and takes off. After a couple of rough stunts, the two demonic creatures lose their target. Once they finally find her, though, H comes to the rescue and goes up real high. They somehow make it down safely and speed through street after street, avoiding the NYPD agents and using some sort of warp drive to land in a desert. H is quite happy with the outcome, but M sees the device moving weirdly and it somehow transforms into an enormous weapon in the middle of nowhere. They decide to press the weapon, and it does not disappoint at all as it causes a massive hole in the ground. At headquarters, both Agent C and T have a few words with each other as the tension of a mole is building up. Agent H and M also have some built-up tension when Bassam, out of nowhere, appears and aims his gun at them. After stealing the weapon that went back to its original size, he takes off to give it to 𝐉𝐨𝐲. Once night hits, the two agents fix the busted-up vehicle and have one destination in mind, 𝐉𝐨𝐲's fortress, a stronghold not to be forgotten on the magnificent island. H arrives and is targeted by weapons but is allowed entry into the fortress. Luca, the head of security, escorts H to 𝐉𝐨𝐲 while M sneaks off the boat. The old couple then link up with each other, to which H cops a punch. He tells her that he has brought a peace offering and reveals Pony. As M starts scaling a wall, Luca is told to kick H out as he is not here for her but for the weapon. Instead, outside clearly annoyed, H takes two bodyguards out and makes his way to the surveillance room and disables weapons on the island. Speaking through comms, Pony sneaks out of his jar and runs away. This distraction intrigues 𝐉𝐨𝐲 long enough for M to steal the weapon, but she is then spotted and held at gunpoint. Pony manages to save her though as Luca, meanwhile, takes on H while M and 𝐉𝐨𝐲 fight as well. Not looking too good, both agents improvise, but it is not enough to stop them both. M does manage to stop 𝐉𝐨𝐲 in her tracks, but H is brought to her at gunpoint, to which she surrenders the weapon. As Luca goes to kill H and then M remembers that Luca is the little creature she saved as a child. Luca puts H down and says the name Molly. Funnily enough, he turns his gun at 𝐉𝐨𝐲 and demands her to hand over the box, which she does. Once the duo leave, H says it's only fair that she knows his true name, which is Henry. Simultaneously, the ground beneath the two collapses and the twins appear. They demand the weapon for the Hive, but the duo refuse to give it up and train it on them instead. They don't have to use it though when the NYPD use a new weapon to subdue and kill the twins. T then approaches them and congratulates them for a job well done. After taking the weapon off M, he tells them it's time to go home, to which they are met with a standing ovation. After alerting the 𝐍𝐵𝐵ian to their stolen weapon, T tells M to enjoy the moment while it lasts. She cannot help but feel that something is very wrong and she tells H of her suspicions. H also senses something is amiss and discovers the case deleted. Em realizes that the gift she was given upon entry into the MIB had a tracker inside it. Things get worse when they discover the weapon missing on their way out of headquarters. Agent C rushes up to them and says that T was covering up his tracks the whole time. H tells him that if things go south, to say that he himself was the mole so the agency doesn't destroy itself. After grabbing a brand new spanker, the two make their way on the street and activate the car's ability to fly. Agent C alerts them that a portal from Sector C has been activated and the Hive is coming. H is very perplexed as both he and T had saved the world from the Hive. A story that M is finding hard to believe, just as the duo arrive at the Eiffel Tower. M questions how H defeated the Hive and he says the same response, that he used nothing but his wits. He quickly realizes that he did not defeat the Hive and was neuralized instead. The two then come face to face with T, who has been taken over by the Hive. Once the portal is opened, H tries convincing T to stop, but he walks up to him and says he was always like a son to him. After turning into a disgusting demonic filth and whacking both agents away from him, it approaches the portal and is tackled by H, who makes him drop his weapon. It, however, fends off both agents once again, recovers its device, and walks to its queen, only for H to call on T as it holds him. H mentions T was like a father to him and the creature smacks him into the portal, heading towards the Hive and her death. Pony comes flying in and takes a note out of Batman's grappling gun to grab onto him and hooks himself to the other side. H manages to get to T, who opens his hand for H to throw the device to M. With the Hive connected to T, M activates the gun and obliterates T, the Hive, and the portal they came from, finally saving the world. H is quite upset at losing his dear friend. Once outside, Agent O congratulates the duo and says she sent M to London from the get-go as she knew something was amiss with the agency. After M is off temporary duty and is now a full-time agent, H is placed as probationary head of the London agency. It seems Agent C also wants H to run the agency and M is told to head back to New York. M makes sure to give H one last look before heading off, however, she decides to spend a couple of hours with him and offers to drop him off in London and gives him Pony as her goodbye gift. That's the end. But before you leave, I actually want to know if you think MIB International was a bad movie or did it live up to your standards? Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.